outside to move the other day. This thing will just start jumping and lunging. And I think I might know where it's doing it. Sometimes the linkages get worn out. With this one, I think there's a shock down in here that's on the linkages, and I think that's going bad. At least I'm hoping that's what the problem is. I can take one finger and push it down. So anyway, we're going to take the side panels off, and we'll take the battery out, and then there's 2 bolts on either side that will take the battery tray out, and then we'll be able to at least see in there. Okay, I'm going to take this out of here too, just to get it out of my way, because you got to push this over to get it and start with the safety neutral. So I just want to see if there's anything simple I can do there. So we'll remove this. The amp meter can stay there. Right here you can see there's a clip that I can pull out, and there's a shock. I have to get some light. It goes right down through here. Now there's 4 different versions of this I showed you, but if your fuses are like this, they just slide down over top. In the back, you just pry up on that clip a little bit and it slides right off. Now we're opened up a little more. Okay, so there's that shock, and these are attached to it. I would say there's a pretty good chance the shock will jump. Now, not all the shocks were here. The newer ones, they got mounted down underneath the frame, and by pulling this down here, I can make that come up there and move this. So what I did notice, if I reach down here and grab a hold of this piece, see the slop in it, see it moving? So I think the slop in that center is what the problem is with the safety neutral. And I don't know, I may have to take these apart. And if I do, I'm going to take something and draw a circle around each bolt hole and around the edge just to mark it. Or an awl or something and scratch it right at the edge. And that way I can assemble everything right back. So what I did was I took just a silver Sharpie, went around the edge of the bracket, went around the edge of each bolt hole. Now, whether it's a good idea or not, you pull that lever up like you're going forward, and makes these easier to get to. Now keep in mind, once you take the 3 bolts out of this, there's a plate that goes across the back that has the 3 captured nuts in it. Once you break that loose and you're not holding on to them, they fall down there on the belly pan. You guys probably can't see it, but I can see the brace down there. I think with a long extended magnet I can get to it. Little bar that you're going to lose. I'm holding on to it. So we'll put this down here. Now, the other thing is, we're still not going to be able to get that off of there, because this piece stays on there. Now, it looks like there's a spring back here, so I can get you in there a little better. Now, if you see this spring back here, there's a nut on it. There's like a washer and a rubber behind it. Well, it looks like we're going to have to take that off, because that's what's holding this piece on. And it still won't come off. See the shock? It still won't come off. So I wonder how much tension that little spring has on it. It almost looks like I can move it around. I'm going to try to take the nut off and see what we get. You see that nut to adjust the tension is almost flush with the end there. So that'll give me a reference point to start at when I put it back together. Okay, I started loosening that. Look, there ain't no spring tension now. So that don't look like that's going to fly off and smack you in the face or nothing. It looks like you'll have plenty of room to get the nut back on. Okay, when you get that off, that nut, you'll have the nut. It's a lock nut. You'll have the spring, a metal washer, and then this rubber. Be careful with this. Don't break it, and don't drop it down in there, because it's not metallic. It won't pick it up. Knob was for the parking brake. I took that off so I could lay this. All I did was took that rod and just laid it right forward. Okay, now I just pulled that out far enough that this shock will come off of there. So there's a part number for the new shock. There's 4 different versions of this, so you got to go by the serial number and you got to make sure you get the right one. And here's the old one. See how it sticks there? Here's the new one. They say these are a lot better. A little bit different the way they're bushings. This one here is a lot stiffer to push. Man, that thing springs right back out. So I'm confident that this is part of the problem. I wouldn't say none of the linkages aren't wore out also, but we're gonna try this. It is a little pricey. At the time of this video, it's about 140 to 150 bucks, something like this, at your John Deere dealer. When you slip the new one in, go behind the amp meter. That way you don't have to squish it down to get it in there. So now that I got that on, and we push that in, I'll have to get that spring and all that stuff back there, and then, okay, I've got the black washer on, and then you push that one on. Just be careful not to drop the black one in there. Then you don't put the spring on and the nut on. Once you get the center one started, you can reach right here and hold that bracket. Once you get it started, these will just line right up. And see how this will move. That's why we had to mark everything. Okay, I think I got that pretty much lined back up the way I had it. So we're going to try that. The adjustment back there, it is a little stiffer, but I'm going to leave it at that right now until I get the shock on it, and then we'll see what happens. Okay, there's probably some kind of trick to it. But this bracket, the pin goes in, kept wanting to drop. I could get the shock down far enough, but I couldn't do that and hold the bracket. So I just put a little piece of wire from there up to the steering wheel just to hold that bracket up. It's not real tight. I put the pin in the side of the bracket while it was out here, just started it. There underneath there you can see the pins hanging out of it. So what I'm going to do is push the shock down, reach in there with one hand. As soon as I get the pin through the shock, I'll be okay. See, with that being held up, with these two side pieces the pin goes through, with that being held up so high, I didn't have to push that down hardly at all. And I got that pin started through the one side. Now I'm going to take my wire out of there and I'll have to make it go back through the slot. Then it's just put the cotter pin on it. Okay, there is a manual for all these, and it does tell you how to adjust everything. I'm hoping I don't have to adjust anything other than that tensioner bolt there. What the manual shows is put this where you can pull it up or down. And they show you hooking a pull scale, and you pull it, and it's supposed to take 7 to 10 pounds to move that lever. And it says to adjust that tension here. So if you only got 5 pounds to pull this lever, you would tighten that up a little bit. Now if you had 12, 15 pounds to pull the lever up, you would want to loosen that up a little bit. 7 to 10 pounds is where they said, so I'll have to get to that here in a minute. Okay, so I put the 4 bolts in the battery tray and the battery, everything back in it. So from what I can see from the John Deere on that manual, they have a spring pull gauge hooked to here, and they say 10 pounds, 7 to 10 pounds to pull this back down. So a fish gauge should work for that. And if I pull, yeah, I get 5 to 7 pounds. See, right there was 7 pounds before it took off. So theoretically I should be able to tighten that nut up just a little bit. This is a 15 millimeter wrench. I just barely snugged it up. I get just a touch over 7 is what I've seen on the last one. You know, this, I don't know, seems a little stiff, but that's what it says, so that's what we're gonna go with. And again, to adjust, it's that nut with the spring on it. So we're gonna leave it at that and try it and see what it does. So it does stay where it's supposed to be in neutral. That's good, that's great. Try to do the left hand in there. So I can slowly. I can slowly move, that's a good thing. It wouldn't be up before. So far, this is a lot better. I'm operating this with my left hand holding the camera. Before that, it was jumping all over the place. So did it help? Yeah, I believe it helped a lot. I think it was worth doing. Still, I got to do a little looking into the brakes. There's a lot more adjustments and stuff on here. If you get a hold of the John Deere service manual for these, it explains a lot of that. So I think there's still some things that could be improved, but that's like night and day. You start to go forward or backwards and it don't just lunge, so I think that helped a lot.